Next question. Several years ago, the town of Bethel bought 72 acres of land for approximately $1 million, now called the Franc Preserve, located on Old Hawleyville Road and Plumtrees Road.
Yep.
A committee was appointed to make suggestions to the Board of Selectmen about uses for the park, and 2 public hearings were also held, asking the public to give input about how they wanted to see that property develop. Things like baseball fields, golf course, pool, hiking trails, bike trails, horse trails, a town garden, disc golf, and even hunting were discussed. People expected at least some of these activities to be developed there. Can you indicate why nothing was done other than a sign on the corner? And will you develop the Franc property in any way if you are elected, and how will you develop it?
Well, actually, the feedback was overwhelmingly to keep it pretty much preserved as it is. I don't, with the exception of some interest in disc golf, I don't recall anything about a pool or any kind of active recreation. The feedback that I recall at that time was that people wanted to preserve it for hiking trails. There are hiking trails in there now. The Park and Recreation Commission has allowed groups to go in and establish hiking trails. One of the things I am going to propose, in fact, within the next month, is an ad hoc committee to establish, to create a framework for a conservation commission. Because really, when you get into things like the Franc Property and Terre Haute, where you've got passive recreation opportunities, that's really not what the Park and Rec Commission does. And that's really why there probably hasn't been very much activity in that. Park and Rec Commission is involved with a whole raft of other things. And if you look at other towns, they have a conservation commission that works with passive recreation opportunities. So yes, to answer your question, I do plan to address that issue.
But only for conservation?
Yeah, with a conservation commission. There could be other things that are like a little bit of active, I remember hearing some interest in a community garden.
I don't think you were at the meeting, but I was, and I could give you an idea.
Yeah.
There were lesser people, I think, that wanted it conserved.
Yeah.
And it's a nice thing to conserve it, but there were the majority of people that were talking about all other things, including Selectman Zatkowski, I believe, suggested a golf course. And
he misses his golf course, yes.
yeah, and there were a lot of dads that wanted baseball, whatever, baseball field,
Well, you know what that does?
batting cages, whatever.
You know what, that goes to the issue I talked about, where our residents really want more park services. And I can tell you, the Board of Finances over the past few years have really been pretty tough on the budget for park and recreation. You've got 2 parts there. You've got the self-funded part, where people pay for programs, but then you've got the part where they have to develop things like this, and they're not getting enough money for that. That's something that we really have to address, because
You made a very good point, though. You said you have this piece of property.
yes,
And then the other side is people want all these things, all these services, baseball field, whatever.
yeah.
So why is this 72 acres just sitting there and not developed for things that maybe might not ruin the conservation?
Well, then we should go to the Board of Finance and say, next year when I put money in for a development study, don't take it out, because we need these things. I'm going to come down on the side of the guys that came to the meeting and said, yeah, we need more baseball parks. And I got a call.
And bike paths.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. But, I got a call from
You
one
could
of,
put a dirt bike path in there.
Yeah, but if you have hiking trails,
have to maintain
they
it,
don't
I know.
mix.
Yeah,
That's a whole different set of. As much as I love mountain biking, yeah, I don't think we go there. But here's another thing. I got a call from one of our religious leaders year before last, and they said, why are there so many games scheduled on Sunday mornings? That's family church time. And the answer to that is, our fields are so crowded, that's the only time they can schedule practices and games. I mean, we do need to do that. So, like I said, the selectmen recommend a budget, the Board of Finance finalizes it, and they took a lot of that latitude away from us in this last go-around, because we do need to develop more opportunities for recreation, and that's part of it.
And I'm
So
gonna ask-
baseball, soccer,
Right.
all of that stuff.
Because, you're saying these two things. We have this land and we have
Yeah.
the people that want all these things, so maybe that could
Yeah,
be said.
right.
And I'm going to throw this next question in. It kind of goes with this. I'm only asking because people ask for it on social media. There is presently no town pool
Yes.
in Bethel that is urgently desired by many residents. How do you feel about a town pool, and will you do anything to make this happen?
I would love a town pool. I have been in favor of a town pool since 1994, when a good friend of mine and his wife actually started a movement for a town pool. They formed a nonprofit political action group.
Do you have an idea where it could go?
Well, the proposal at that time was to put it at McCower Park. And it was, I really don't understand why it is so hard to get the town behind a town pool, because the proposal that was done.
Maintenance, maybe?
No,
No?
all you had to do was sell 80, so this is going back to 1994 numbers, but they had raised enough money from donations and other sources to completely pay for the pool, all the construction. All the town had to do was say, yes, you could put it on town property. And it would have been able.
What year was that?
That was at McCower Park,
No, what year was it?
1994.
1994, okay.
And you could cover the entire maintenance budget by selling, back in those days, only 80 family memberships. Now, I've lived in areas in my career where you had, beautiful, beautiful municipal pools all over town. And you buy an annual pass, and it's this price for a single, this price for a mom and or husband and wife, and here's a price for a family, any number. So it's so economical. It pays for itself. It would be completely.
So you're definitely for a pool?
I'm definitely for it. Yeah, I'm kind of expounding on that, but there was an effort about 5-6 years ago to get it started again. Some people objected and it died, it's really a shame, because I think the priority is to address the turf fields issues first for playing surfaces, which is a more immediate need. But at some point, I would love to address a pool. I would get behind that in a heartbeat.
Okay.